Do you really think retirement is about holding hands and watching sunsets together until you die? You've spent 40 years of your life grinding, building, sacrificing, accumulating capital. And for what? So you can finally cash in your chips and enter a 60,000-hour-long vacation with your partner? Let me shatter that fragile little fantasy for you right now. Retirement, as you've been sold it, is the #1 killer of late-life marriages and the fastest way to incinerate a lifetime of wealth. It's not a finish line. It's a psychological pressure cooker designed with lethal precision to expose every crack in your relationship, every weakness in your character, and every unfulfilled desire you've both suppressed for decades. Your dream of happily ever after is the very blueprint for your destruction. In this video, I'm not going to give you financial tips from some spreadsheet jockey in a cheap suit. I'm going to give you the one brutal framework that separates men who retire into a new chapter of freedom from the men who retire into a gilded cage with a resentful cellmate. This is the ugly truth, and it might be the only thing that saves you. Most men confuse the concept of retirement with the concept of rest. They are not the same thing. Rest is a temporary state of recovery. Retirement is a permanent state of being. And a permanent state of rest is called death. What you should be aiming for is not rest, but redirection. Let me define this clearly in language a man of action understands. A successful retirement isn't a shared dream. It's the strategic alignment of two powerful individual sovereign missions that have been running in parallel for your entire adult lives. True freedom in your later years isn't about having enough money to do nothing together. It's about having a personal structure so robust, so compelling, and so deeply ingrained in your identity that your relationship doesn't collapse under the weight of becoming the only thing you have left to do. It's the difference between a holding company with two thriving independent subsidiaries and a desperate merger of two failing businesses, each hoping the other will save them. One creates exponential value, the other guarantees bankruptcy. I saw this firsthand with a man I respected immensely, a titan in the logistics industry, built a 9-figure empire from nothing. He had the perfect plan, or so he thought. Sold the company at 65, bought a vineyard in Napa, a yacht in the Mediterranean. The whole postcard fantasy. He and his wife of 35 years were going to travel, make wine, and enjoy the fruits of his labour. 2 years later, I got a call. He was in the middle of the ugliest divorce I've ever witnessed. She took half the vineyard, the yacht, and, most importantly, his spirit. He told me, "David, the worst part wasn't the fighting, it was the silence. We ran out of things to say in 6 months. I spent my life building an empire, and when it was gone, I realized I hadn't built anything else, especially myself." That quiet desperation, that deafening silence when the engine of your life's work finally cuts out, that's the enemy. And it's coming for you unless you understand what you're truly up against. The single greatest, most catastrophic mistake you are making right now is assuming that because you successfully built a career and a family alongside each other, you can successfully build a retirement together. You are treating your final chapter as a joint venture, when in fact it is the ultimate non-negotiable test of your individual sovereignty. For 40 years, your life has been governed by a simple, powerful, and evolutionarily sound structure. You had your domain, and she had hers. You had your mission: the hunt, the build, the provision, the conquest in the marketplace. Your world was one of logic, risk, and hierarchy. Her world, whether she was a CEO herself or a homemaker, was fundamentally different. It was the world of the nest, the community, the emotional landscape of the family. You were a team, absolutely, but you operated in parallel universes that intersected in the evenings, on weekends, and during planned vacations. This separation wasn't a flaw, it was the entire basis of your functionality. It was the source of polarity. It created the space for respect, for mystery, for desire. You left the house a warrior, and you returned a king. She respected you for the worlds you conquered when you were away from her. Retirement annihilates that structure with the force of a nuclear bomb. the 80 to 100 hours a week you spent apart. Your commute, your workday, your business trips, her time managing her own life. That space evaporates overnight. Your two separate universes don't just intersect anymore. They collide and collapse into a single, shared, unstructured reality. Your mission, central organizing principle of your entire masculine identity for half a century, is gone. And in that terrifying vacuum, you instinctively do the one thing that will guarantee the destruction of her attraction for you. You try to make her your new mission. You become a manager with no company, a CEO with no employees, a general with no war to fight. So you turn your strategic mind onto her and your shared life. You start optimizing her schedule. You critique the way she loads the dishwasher. You analyze her spending habits. You try to solve her emotional states with logic. You are bored, aimless, and leaking your frustrated, purposeless masculine energy all over her domain. You think you're being a partner. You think you're being helpful. But what she feels is a hostile takeover. She doesn't feel loved, she feels managed. She doesn't feel safe, she feels suffocated. A king does not concern himself with the day-to-day operations of the kitchen. He trusts his staff. By inserting yourself into her domain, you are not communicating partnership. You are communicating a profound lack of trust, and, more importantly, a catastrophic lack of your own purpose. You become the nice guy retiree, the man who follows his wife around the grocery store, offering helpful suggestions, the man whose only question at the start of the day is, "So, what are we doing today?" You have abdicated your throne. You have traded your sword for an apron, and you cannot fathom why the respect in her eyes has been replaced by a mixture of pity and contempt. You have ceased to be the man she married. You are no longer the adventurer who brought stories back from the wild. You are just there, always. And familiarity, as they say, breeds contempt. This is the illusion you must dismantle, that more time together equals a better relationship. The opposite is true. Unstructured, purposeless, constant time together is a corrosive acid that dissolves attraction, respect, and eventually love itself. So you stop planning your retirement, effective immediately. That word is now banished from your vocabulary. You are not retiring. You are commencing your third act. This is not an ending. It is a deliberate and strategic redeployment of your assets, your experience, and your energy into a new theatre of operations. The solution is not to find more hobbies you can do together. It is not to plan more cruises or buy a bigger television. The solution is to build a new life for yourself that is so compelling, so purpose-driven, and so authentically your own that your partner remains a cherished and desired complement to it, not the suffocating centerpiece of it. This isn't a tip or a trick. This is a fundamental shift in your identity. It rests on three non-negotiable pillars of power. If any one of these is weak, the entire structure will collapse. The first and most critical pillar is the sovereign mission. You must, without exception, replace your career mission with a new mission. This mission must be yours and yours alone. It cannot be make my wife happy. It cannot be spend more time with the grandkids. Those are wonderful byproducts, but they are not a mission. A mission is a difficult, challenging, purpose-driven pursuit that forces you to grow, to struggle, and to create. It is the new dragon you must slay every single day. For 40 years, your mission gave you your identity. It was the reason you got out of bed. It was the source of your confidence, your stories, your masculine energy. When that is gone, you must replace it with something of equal or greater substance. It could be anything, but it cannot be passive. Starting a business, not for the money, but for the game. Building a school in a developing country. Mastering a difficult skill like welding or flying a plane. Writing the book you always wanted to write. Restoring a classic car down to the last bolt. The specific mission doesn't matter as much as its characteristics. It must be challenging, it must be yours, and it must produce a tangible result. After I sold my primary technology firm, I didn't retire. I redeployed. I launched a small private equity fund that invests in veteran-owned startups. It's a nightmare of logistics, risk, and personalities. It barely makes any money compared to my other investments, but it's my mission. It forces me to be sharp, to mentor young men, to make hard decisions. It's my new battlefield. And when I come home at the end of the day, I have stories of victory and defeat. I bring energy into my home, not drain it away. Your practical application is this. Tomorrow morning, before you speak to anyone, take a pen and a piece of paper. Write down 3 things you would do with your life if you had 10 years left to live, unlimited financial resources, and your partner was not in the picture. Be brutally, selfishly honest. Learn to code. Hike the Appalachian Trail. Get a PhD in history. The answer is in there. That is the seed of your sovereign mission. Pick one and start planning the first step today. The second pillar is the negotiated territory. For your entire marriage, your territory, your time, your space, and your finances was implicitly defined by the demands of your career. Your office was your space. Your salary was your financial contribution. Your 9 to 5 was your time. When you retire, that entire map is wiped clean. You are now 2 sovereigns living in one territory without a treaty. This is a recipe for war. You must sit down and consciously, deliberately, and unemotionally renegotiate the terms of your coexistence. This is not a romantic conversation. It is a logistical one. It covers 3 domains. First, time. You need a default diary. You must schedule your separateness. Block out your time and her time on a shared calendar. Maybe your mornings are for your mission and hers are for her yoga and friends. You come together for lunch. The afternoons are for joint activities. The evenings are yours again. Without a schedule, the default becomes 100% togetherness, which is 100% poison. Second, space. You each need a sovereign space within the home that the other cannot enter without permission. A man must have his cave, his office, his workshop, his library, his garage, a place where he can think, create, and be alone. She needs one too. Her art studio, her garden, her reading room. These are not just rooms. They are embassies of your individual identities. My office is my sanctuary. My wife knows that when that door is closed, I am not to be disturbed unless the house is on fire. It is a sign of profound respect. Third, finances. You must have 3 accounts. Yours, hers, and ours. The ours account is for all joint household expenses funded by a pre-agreed amount. The yours and hers accounts are for your own guilt-free, no-questions-asked personal spending. If she wants to spend $1,000 on a handbag, it comes from her account. It is none of your business. If you want to buy a vintage watch, it comes from yours. This eliminates a massive source of conflict and restores a sense of autonomy and dignity. Your practical application. This week, you will schedule a State of the Union meeting with your partner. Frame it not as a complaint session, but as a strategic planning session for your third act. Bring a calendar and a notepad. Draw the lines on the map. Define your time, your space, and your money. Sign the treaty. The third pillar is the resurrected polarity. Masculine and feminine polarity is the engine of attraction. It is the spark that keeps a long-term relationship from degrading into a platonic friendship. This polarity is created by difference, by distance, and by mystery. Constant, uninterrupted togetherness is the sworn enemy of polarity. It domesticates you. It makes you predictable, safe, and boring. The man who went out into the dangerous world and returned with resources was inherently attractive. His separateness was a key ingredient of his appeal. You must now artificially and intentionally recreate that separateness. You must resurrect the dynamic of leaving and returning. This means you must actively cultivate a life apart from her. This is not about getting a hall pass. This is about maintaining your identity as a man among men and as an individual in the world. I have a standing poker game with the same group of men every 2 weeks. No wives, no girlfriends. We talk about business, politics, life. We challenge each other. We hold each other accountable. It is a vital source of masculine energy. I also take at least one solo trip every year. Sometimes it's a fishing trip to Alaska with friends. Other times it's a week-long architectural tour of a city by myself. This time apart is non-negotiable. It does two things. First, it makes me a more interesting man. I come back with new perspectives, new stories. I bring fresh energy back into the relationship. Second, it allows her to miss me. It reminds her that my existence is not solely for her orbit. Absence doesn't just make the heart grow fonder, it makes the respect deeper. And the king must occasionally leave the castle for the kingdom to appreciate his return. Your practical application for this is simple and immediate. Plan a trip for yourself to be taken within the next 6 months. It must be at least 3 days long, and it must be without her. It could be with your sons, your old college friends, or completely alone. The purpose is not to escape her, but to reconnect with yourself. Go climb a mountain, attend a conference, visit a battlefield. Go do something that is 100% for you. Come back a slightly different man than the one who left. That is how you keep the fire burning for 50 years. Now, I want you to look down the tunnel of time. There are 2 paths in front of you, branching from this exact moment. Let's walk down the first one. This is the path where you do nothing. You dismiss my words as cynical or harsh. You cling to your fairy tale vision of retirement. Here is your life in 5 years. You wake up each morning not with a sense of purpose, but with a vague, gnawing anxiety. The question, what are we going to do today, hangs in the air like a toxic fog. You spend your days in a state of low-grade irritation, bickering over the thermostat, the volume of the television, the way the other person chews their food. You've become an expert on her flaws and she on yours. Your conversations are a tedious loop of logistics, complaints, and recycled anecdotes. You spend the fortune you bled for on expensive, soulless cruises and all-inclusive resorts, places designed to distract dying people. You smile for the photos you post on social media, performing a hollow pantomime of happiness for an audience that doesn't care. Behind the smiles, you feel her respect for you slowly, painfully, curdling into pity, and then hardening into contempt. She doesn't look at you with desire anymore. She looks at you with the weary resignation of a caretaker. You are not her partner. You are her heaviest piece of luggage. And one day, sitting in your perfect house with your perfect wife, you will be crushed by the soul-destroying realization that you have spent millions of dollars to build yourself a luxury prison, and you have willingly handed the keys to the warden. You are not free. You are simply and comfortably waiting to die. That is the pain scenario. It is not a guess. It is a statistical probability. Now, let's walk down the other path. The path where you decide, today, to take command. You implement the 3 pillars. You design your third act with the same ruthless focus you used to build your career. Here is your future. You wake up before the sun, not because you have to, but because your sovereign mission pulls you out of bed. There is a fire in your gut. You attack your new work, your business, your craft, your philanthropy, with the accumulated wisdom of a lifetime and the untethered freedom of a man who has already won the game of money. You are not grinding anymore. You are creating your legacy. You come to dinner not with a list of complaints about your day of leisure, but with stories from the front lines of your new mission, and you are genuinely deeply curious to hear about hers. The time you spend together is scarce, and therefore it is precious. It is a conscious choice, not a miserable default. She looks at you, and she doesn't see a bored, shuffling old man who needs to be managed. She sees a vibrant, powerful, sovereign man who is still conquering new worlds. A man who is more compelling and more interesting at 70 than he was at 40. A man who doesn't need her for his happiness, but who actively and passionately chooses her to be a part of his incredible life every single day. You will travel not to escape your life, but to enhance it. Your wealth will be a tool for freedom and impact, not a sedative for boredom. You will have the respect of your partner, the admiration of your children, and, most importantly, you will have your own self-respect. You will be that rare man who finishes his life not in a slow, pathetic decline, but in a roaring crescendo. That is the pleasure scenario. It is not a fantasy. It is the logical, inevitable consequence of the right actions. The choice is yours. So let's be clear. Forget the brochures from the financial advisors showing silver-haired couples laughing on a sailboat. That's not a plan. It's a marketing fiction designed to sell you annuities. Your last chapter is not about winding down. It is not about comfort. It is about the final and most important act of building. A man without a mission is a ghost. He is a drain on the energy of everyone around him. Your work is not done. You didn't just retire. You just fired your old boss and promoted yourself to chairman and CEO of your own life. Do not mismanage the enterprise. The stakes are not just your happiness, but the entire legacy of your life and the sanctity of the relationship you spent a lifetime building. This is not a game. This is not a drill. This is your life, and the clock is ticking louder than ever before. The world will sell you a comfortable retirement, a soft life, an easy exit. It is a trap. It is a lie. Comfort is the warm, quiet room where ambition goes to die. Your woman did not fall in love with a comfortable man. She fell in love with the fire in your eyes, with the man who wrestled with the world and bent it to his will. Do not let that man die before your body does. I have given you the map. I have shown you the pitfalls and the path to the summit. But you, and only you, have to take the first step. I want you to make a commitment. Not to me, but to yourself. This is your line in the sand. Go down to the comments right now, and I want you to write this exact phrase. My third act begins now. No discussion, no questions, no excuses. A declaration, a statement of intent to yourself and to every other man on this channel who is refusing to go quietly into the night. This is your public commitment to building, not fading, to leading, not following, to becoming the master of your final chapter, not a passenger. Write it now. My third act begins now. And if you are truly serious about this, if you are finished with the comforting lies the world feeds you, and you're ready to build a life of genuine freedom, power, and lasting desire, then subscribe to this channel and turn on your notifications. This is the only place you're going to get this kind of unvarnished truth. There are no shortcuts here. The easy path leads to a dead end of regret and resentment. We are taking the other path, the one that requires strength, discipline, and a commitment to the truth. I'll see you on the path.